Hi, you're watching Cape Media News. I'm Gabrielle Rawson. I'm here today with David O'Brien, President and CEO of Massachusetts Cannabis Business Association. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Gabrielle. Great to be with you.
Absolutely. So for our viewers who may not know, can you briefly tell us about the Massachusetts Cannabis Association?
Sure. We were started back in December of 2017, knowing that we were going to have a recreational cannabis marketplace here. And we were really set up to bring together the entrepreneurs that were going to be in the space, the related professionals, the allied organizations, the advocates, to really just support the responsible and equitable growth of the cannabis industry in our state. And we convene and we work with advocates and operators alike to speak in a singular voice for the economic, political, and social issues that impact our members. And we're building a network that really is about sharing best practices, fostering the meaningful relationships in the space, and creating opportunities for success for everybody in it that wants to be an operator or an ancillary service provider.
Wonderful. I know recently the Massachusetts Cannabis Commission has been discussing two new policies around two delivery licenses that would enable vendors of cannabis to deliver their products. Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Sure. So in essence, this is not a new topic. It's just new that it's going to be passing or being voted on finally at the commission. They talked about this a couple of years ago and said, let's put off the delivery license until we are up and running a little bit more robustly as an industry. So they're going to be voting on final regulations, including this delivery license category on November 30th. And the regulations will include two new delivery licenses, limited delivery licenses. So the best way to think about these is one is going to be called a courier model. So think of that as an Uber Eats, and they would deliver cannabis products from a dispensary, so a retail shop, to consumers. The other one is an operator who will have a cannabis delivery operator who will have the opportunity to have basically a warehouse, a supply that they will also be allowed to deliver to communities.
Wonderful. And I know the Massachusetts Cannabis Business Association has been very vocal in support of these licenses. What economic and social impacts would these licenses have here in Massachusetts?
Yeah, so interestingly, this category was discussed, as I said, about 2 or 3 years ago by the commission. And at that time, one of the sort of stakes in the ground that they decided on was to make sure that both of these, whatever delivery license they were going to come up with, and put in regulations, it was only going to be available to minority applicants and those who have come through the social equity or economic empowerment programs, both of which the Cannabis Control Commission runs. So it oftentimes may involve communities of applicants from communities of color, people with who've been harmed by the war on drugs, arrest records, or their family members have had that. And it's really about giving a head start to that license category or that applicant category to get into this one license type. It tends to be a lower startup cost to get into this sort of a license type, because if you're opening up just a standalone retail, that can be $1 million plus to open. If you're opening up a cultivation, that can be multiple millions. This license, they believe, is going to be less expensive to get started up, and they want to help grow this industry by having those that have not had the opportunity to participate. Remember, in early November, we hit the 1 billion, that's with a B, in sales in Massachusetts in just 2 years of being open for adult use sales. So this is an opportunity for the commission to say, this was in our ballot question, it was in the enabling legislation in 2017, and it's going to be in our regulations, and we're going to pass it.
What, if any, arguments have you heard against these licenses?
Yeah, so a couple of concerns. On the warehouse model, the big concern for everybody in the space is sort of an Amazon approach, that someone will come in, stand up a really large grow, which there are limits, caps on how much of a cultivation you can have in Massachusetts, but some companies are already here doing it up to 100,000 square feet of canopy. So they're worried that some big operator will come in, bypass all the retail, and just basically gut the retail system. There are also worries that have been raised about delivery being able to be allowed to banned communities. I know on Cape Cod, there are many banned communities for any license type. if you're a banned community for all things cannabis, you're not going to, the commission is writing these regulations such that you won't be able to deliver either license, either of the delivery license types. You won't be able to deliver to those communities. So in both that case and the Amazon worries, the commission is writing regulations as we speak to vote on for at the 30th to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because they didn't spend the last couple of years setting up a retail model only to tear it down. They're going to factor that into the regulations. They're right.
Understandable. Now, if the licenses are approved on November 30th, how soon could customers expect to see the people delivering cannabis?
Yeah, my guess is probably first quarter of next year, because they're going to have to put application processes together and that sort of thing. So my guess is it'll take a couple of months to get up and getting that out to folks. But there's already interest by entrepreneurs who want to set up these licenses. Many of the social equity and economic empowerment applicants have been pre-certified by the commission. So the commission has them in the queue, sort of ready to go in a sort of temporary or a pre-approval process. So presuming they have the application process out and people get through it, it can take several months to get through that as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, David O'Brien, again, for joining us. How can people learn more about the Massachusetts Cannabis Business Association?
Great question, and thank you for letting me do the plug. Look us up at www.masscba.com.
Wonderful. Thanks again.